I've been a certified appraiser since 2004 and was one of the first and love the business.
Need I say more? No, you said you'd be done by 6:30, 7 o'clock.
So I have an hour and a half?
Yes, you.
Okay, cool. Well, that's great. So I'm kind of embarrassed to get started here even. Dan asked me to prepare some thoughts to help new equipment appraisers getting started out in business. I kind of look around the room and there's a lot of people here, you know, probably been doing this for a while and probably going to be telling them things that they already know. That's okay. If you feel uncomfortable listening to things you already know, then see you later. No harm, no foul. But it's a privilege being here. I really enjoy getting together with the people at NEBB and Dan. They've been very good to me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. My background is I'm a business broker, but I do a lot of appraisal work too. You know, in business brokerage, you have a beginning and an end, and what do you do between? Well, deals aren't closing. They're kind of along. So equipment appraisal is perfect for me. It kind of fills in the gaps between, you know, beginning a deal and ending a deal, and kind of keeps the income smooth, and I like that. I like that a lot. So again, my background is a business broker, certified machinery and equipment appraiser. I'm a business valuator. I got a string of letters after my name. They're that long, but doesn't really mean anything, as you'll hear today. So, but I'm going to start out my talk today with something I know all of you have heard before. Have you ever heard a business owner tell you about how they got started in business? It kind of goes like this. It's like, I started with $200 in my garage. Has anybody ever heard that before? Yeah? Yeah? Well, yeah, me too. Well, I'm going to tell you my $200 in a garage story first before I get started. And there's a reason for telling you this. My early career, I worked for a real estate development company, and then very quickly I moved into a concrete construction company, ready-mix concrete company. You know, the big yellow trucks were machinery equipment appraisers, you know, the ready-mix concrete. And the name of the company was Standard Concrete. I was a financial guy. My job was to get the books and records together, and once I got that all together, my job was to go out and to acquire little ready-mix companies. The ownership of our company decided that the way they're going to grow is go buy ready-mix companies. I'm in my 30s, okay? Don't know anything about buying companies, but my owner said, or my boss, who was the owner, he said, you know, just go out there and talk to them. So I go out in these ready-mix batch shacks. I don't know if you've ever been in a ready-mix batch shack, but you know, you don't wear an investment banker's outfit out there. You know, they're kind of grungy places. I'd go in and I'd sit down and I'd say, you know, the best thing you can do is sell to Standard Concrete. And I do that day in and day out until finally they cracked. Well, then once they cracked, that's a good idea. Well, then we'd bring them in and, you know, kind of get the deal done. Well, during my 10 years at Standard Concrete, I participated in 9 ready-mix concrete acquisitions. I bought 2 trucking companies. I say I bought, it's, you know, this company's money, but I was participating in it. Put a rock and sand aggregate outfit in the river, and that's a place to throw away your money, I'll tell you that right away. If aggregate is tough to make. I was instrumental in putting in an import cement facility in the LA harbor. Well, my last job for them was to help them sell their company. Are there any business valuators in here? Okay, good. Then I won't step on your toes, but I'm going to tell you this story. So my last job was to help them sell their company. Well, we hired a company called Geneva at the time, and Geneva was a big company that used to go out and they charge a lot of money, charge $40,000 to have a business valuation done. And so, you know, it was good. I didn't know anything about business valuation, but I hired them. And got the business valuation back, and I kind of participated in doing the recasting and giving all the financial statements and tax returns are doing, all the questions that business valuators ask. And I got the report back, and took it into my boss, and the boss looked at it and said, nope, send it back. So we sent it back to him, rework it. We did that like 3 times until we finally got the number, okay? And once we got the number, he said, okay, now let's take the company for sale. So, again, this was way over my head at this point. This is a $75 million company. It's way over. I'm small potatoes, but this was really an interesting experience for me. So I had a friend who worked for one of the large accounting firms I introduced my owner to, and that friend introduced him to Bankers Trust, and they ultimately got the deal done. $75 billion transaction. Wow, what an experience for 10 years during my 30s to kind of have that. It was really, really great experience for me. Well, David, my boss, he said, Mark, you did a really good job helping me through this. I really appreciate it. And he had a lot of toys. He had a place down in Palm Desert and had a place up in Deer Valley, had a place over in Maui. He said, take your family over to my place in Maui and enjoy a couple weeks. Take whoever you want. So I took my wife and my son, and my sister and her family went over there and spent a couple weeks, and it was a lot of fun. He had everything set out for us, cars, and he had food brought in for us. It was just really top notch. And that was right around Pearl Harbor Day, early December, mid-December. And I got back, about a week before Christmas, got back into my new job, and new owners. Okay. Christmas Eve, I'm brought in to my boss calls me in, my new boss calls me and brings him in, says, come into my office, and he says, Mark, things are different now. We really don't like you playing with David's toys. We don't think you're a term player. And I was let go. Christmas Eve. Now that's cold, man. That's really cold. Okay? So I'm not sure what I said, and if I said it, I probably couldn't say it in mixed company. But the point is, it really made for interesting dinner talk the next day at Christmas. So I'm 40 years old at the time, don't have a job, I'm gyrating around, I don't know what to do. And I do gyrate around. I like working with business owners. I tried to do a couple deals, didn't quite get in there, but I ended up working for a paint company. I dropped into a paint company. They said they wanted to grow their company. And my job for them, and thanks for being patient with me here, my job with them was to help them buy other paint companies, but also to put together a joint venture partnership with Valspar. Anybody hear of Valspar Paint? Big paint company. And the purpose of that joint venture was to sell paint to the Home Depot. Well, Home Depot really sucks up a lot of paint. You've been in Home Depot, they got a lot of paint. So got that joint venture in place, and that just screamed 2 years. 2 years it went from zero, 125 million in sales. That was just a screamer, because Home Depot could just suck it up. And it was a joint venture partner. That means we all had a little bit of equity, and I'm screaming, sell, we got to get out of this thing now. Sell, we're at the top. And the owners kind of said, I think we have a kind of different attitude. You're saying sell, this is going to go on forever. Maybe we shouldn't work together anymore. Golly, another separation. So, I learned from my first separation that it was silly to just kind of walk away empty-handed. Okay. I had a choice to go back to my old way of thinking and just walk away or do something different. At first I really didn't think I had a choice. When somebody fires, you don't think you have a choice. But, I thought about it a while, and I thought, I looked at the psychology of it, and I said, maybe I do have a choice. I could either walk away empty-handed, or maybe I can grab some dough on the way out. It's all right. Okay. So I asked for money. And I asked for more than what I thought was even reasonable. But what did I have to lose? No. I knew that if I could kind of complicate it a little bit maybe, or make it a little murky, or make the separation a little more difficult for them, but at the same time I knew that if I could make it easy for them to settle and make them look good too when they settled, that I'd be okay. I was a paycheck guy, that green visored accountant. Okay, I was always used to getting a paycheck, that consistency of a paycheck. I had never been in a position before in my life where I had to monetize the situation, figure out how much to charge for you to do something. Okay, so the story ends. It ends like this. I got a great severance package. Well, I thought it was great. I got better than a year's salary. On top of that, the business owner, my boss, I told him, he agreed, that he was going to be my very first customer in my new business. And my new business was going to be business valuation. You know how much I charged them? $40,000. So, what did I learn for that? Well, I thought about that, and he was kind of happy. He was kind of happy to put me in business. He saw that he did a really good thing for me. Okay? Took a bad situation, we made it great. Go figure. So, for me, as an accountant, new to business world, I kind of stepped outside my boundaries a bit. What if I didn't ask? What if I didn't ask for that money? It's okay to be outrageous sometimes. They just don't teach you these things in school, do they? So, lesson number 1, it's your choice. It's your choice. It's your choice to do those things that can make you money. Well, you don't have to do them, but it's your choice. I was coming back from LAX last week, and I was in the car and in traffic, and Lou Holtz came on. Everybody know Lou Holtz? Lou Holtz was the football coach for Notre Dame. That's where I went to school. The guy, now talk about getting fired. This guy, Lou Holtz, wins a national championship. He takes them to 8 bowl games, and they fire him. Go figure that one out. But anyway, I'm listening to Lou Holtz, and I'm a Notre Dame football fan. I'm listening to Lou Holtz, and he makes a comment that really stuck with me. He said, in the English language, there's more than 400,000 words, and the most important one is choice. Yeah, it is. It's choice. Many of us are one-person shops. Okay? We choose our lifestyle. We don't have anybody telling us what to do. We choose to be responsible for our actions. We choose who we want to work with, when we want to work, how we want to do it. It's our choice. I contend we choose on how much money we're going to make. Now, let me say this, guys. A lot of you, and again, my comments directed to some of the people that haven't been working for themselves too long, but I know if you're just starting out a business, it's scary. It really is scary. You might not see like you have a lot of choices, but me too. I've been doing this for 25 years. Freedom of choice. What is it? Freedom of choice. Is it just there, or do we earn it? It takes a lot of patience. Sometimes it feels like after every job we complete, we're out of business again. Anybody ever feel like that? Yeah, all of us. So here's a personal example. I give these examples just kind of help where we're going with this. I've been working on a deal for about 6 months, and in between in between the meetings and the conference calls and putting the people together, I'm doing equipment appraisals, and finally the deal gets done. Whew. The reports are out. Everybody gets paid. I'm happy. 30 days, the phone doesn't ring. I start to panic. 45 days, I'm ready to jump off a cliff. So what do you do? What do you do? Well, that's my second lesson. My second lesson is always get back to basics. Okay? What do I mean by that? Well, what works for me might not work for you. It might not. Maybe it's a guideline. When I get out of sync, or I get concerned, or I get worried, or I become impatient, I go to my book here, and I keep this book in my drawer behind my desk. And let me see where I am here. This is my Always Get Back to Basics book. Always get back to basics. It's my Bible. It's my roadmap. It's my guide. It's something that is very, very personal to me. I'm going to read you about this a little later, but it's very, very personal to me. So, what do you mean by basics? Well, I look at basics, in my book, there's principles, attitudes, that's one side of it. And then there's those very specific things that we have to do every day to be successful. So lesson number 3, and there's only 5 lessons, guys, okay? We're getting through what we're doing, is the givens. Okay? Here are the givens of the basics. And these are more of the attitudes and concepts. The first one I'm going to say is the givens, is kind of word games. Competence, / trust. Competence, trust. Well, let me say this. Competency, if any of you have concern about your competency, don't. Get over it. You're competent. You've gone through the NEBB or the ISBA training, you're competent. Period. The client wouldn't have called you if he didn't think you were competent. Don't worry about it. You're competent. You're doing the right things to be competent. You're going to conferences like this. You're listening to the monthly calls. You're staying up with your continuing education. You're competent. Don't even think about that. Okay? Trust wins every time. Competency, trust. And you know this already. Competency and trust. Trust wins every time. You know, people like to do business with people they like and people they trust. So how do you get people to trust you? Well, we all have our different styles. You know, what I do is I like to get them to talk. You know, people like to talk, and they like to talk about themselves. So, that very first boss that fired me in that first job, he did say one good thing to me one time. He said, you know, Mark, you can't learn anything with your mouth open. Get people talking. The more they talk, the more you listen, guess what? The more they're going to trust you. And I think it's important to know that. Again, you probably already know that. You know, when I go to a machinery and equipment appraisal, I'm walking with the business owner. One of the first things I say to him, you know, you have the small talk. We all do that, okay? We all have the small talk. But one of the first things I say to him says, you know, Mr. Business Owner, when I mentor some of the newer appraisers, well, I'm saying something about myself there, aren't I? When I mentor some of the newer appraisers, I always tell them that, you know, listen to that business owner. He's going to know more about that equipment than you're ever going to know. And you just tell him that right up front. I say, Mr. Owner, you know, you're going to know more about that equipment than I'm ever going to know. Guess what? He's going to just start babbling and babbling. He's going to tell you everything about that equipment that you ever want to know. Now, I don't know if it's all true. That's our job is to go out and figure out whether it is. But the point is, he's talking, and that's what you want. He's talking. The more he talks, the more he trusts you. Same thing if you're working with a business owner, you're going to help him sell his business. You're going to get him talking. The more he talks, the better you can perform. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Let it listen. You'll do well. Trust wins. I think everybody agrees with me. Trust wins over competency. Yeah, this is old stuff. I know you know this. And thanks again for being patient with me. Second principle. We're going to call this greed, fear. Okay? GREED/fear. Greed, fear. You've heard that before in the marketplace, haven't we? Fear wins every time. Every time fear wins. You know, the business valuers probably heard of this guy. A guy named Harry Markowitz. He does business valuation theory and prospect theory. And you all know this. You know, if you flip a coin enough times, it's always going to come out 50-50. right? You've seen that before. It's always going to come back to half heads and half tails. If you flip it enough times, it always comes back to me. Well, these people did a study, and the study was really interesting about greed and fear, and it was people's perspective of the stock market and how people felt about winning or losing. And I'm going to read this here. Losses, here's their studies. Losses are considered far more undesirable than equivalent gains are desirable. So if you take that in the flipping the coin thing, boom, 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 most people, if you said to them, we're going to flip a coin. If it comes up heads, I'll give you $100. If it comes up tails, you give me $100. Most people won't take that bet. So what the study did, they just moved them up to $125. Flip a coin, you win, I'll give you $125. You lose, you give me $100. Most people won't take that bet. They had to get that all the way up to $250 before people would take that bet. What that means is people really don't like to lose. They're afraid. Greed and fear. Greed is much more powerful. So how do we use that as appraisers? Well, one of the easiest ones with bankers is that SBA guarantee. If we don't do the appraisal right and our appraisers aren't credible, guess what? You might lose that SBA guarantee. Well, that's huge. Okay. I've even said to some of the bankers and some of the underwriters I work with, that the SBA looks at 10 different items in those appraisals to make sure that they're right? Well, no kidding. If one of those items aren't in there, I'm not going to get my guarantee. Well, that's a pretty powerful point. Pretty powerful address for somebody wanting to make sure they're getting a report that counts. A business owner calls me and says, hey, I'm supposed to get an appraisal on my equipment for whatever reason. Softly you mentioned through the conversation of learning what he wants to accomplish and the purpose of the appraisals and all those things we do on our calls. I try to to add to that concept, that talk, that discussion, a little bit about if you don't do it right, you're going to have to do it done twice. And it's going to cost you double, and that. Let me make sure it gets done right for you. Are you sure you're supposed to order, or is the bank? Take care of them, look at them, kind of make them think that you're looking out for them, because they really don't know what they're looking for. Number 3, perception, reality. Everybody's heard this before. Perception or reality. Have we not? Well, what I'm going to say on this one, we already know. It's not about how we perceive ourselves, but it's about how our prospects perceive us. Right? I guess along with that, I would say that, we can only change our prospects' perception of us if we can change our perception of ourselves. And this kind of gets into the expert versus advisor communication. We're all experts. We all know that. We're all experts. We're trained properly. And what do experts do? Experts are people that are hired for a specific assignment for a specific amount of money to do a specific job. Just that simple. Advisors are a little different. They're smart, yeah, but they're going to be hired for more than just a specific job. They're going to be asked to be a counselor to that person. They're going to be asked to be more broad. They're going to be asked about more situations. So as machinery and equipment appraisers, we want to come across, or we want to build a path as we build our careers, as we build our businesses, to move away from just being purely an expert in doing just machinery and equipment, to become more of a counselor to our clients, to be that guy that knows everything about iron, that guy that knows everything about machinery and equipment, that guy that knows everything about assets and how to manage them. Okay? That's a much, much bigger world, a better place to be. And I got to say too is that the perception of value is different for every job. Everybody's going to have a different perception of what the value is going to be for a particular assignment. So the fourth part of my basics on attitudes is another cliche, is overpromise, underdeliver. Has anybody ever heard that? Overpromise, underdeliver? Yeah, well, that's no good. And we all know that. I don't even have to go there. It's always overpromise and overdeliver. Be on time. If they say they need the appraisal by March 5th, get it done by March 5th. That's it. You already know this. Don't delay, because you're not going to build a customer base by being late. So get it done on time. These are simple facts. Don't take on assignments that you're totally unfamiliar with. Now, as new appraisers, there will be situations that you run into that you are unfamiliar with the equipment. That's okay. I'm not saying walk away from those assignments. I'm saying use your support team, use your network, use the people you know to get help. I don't know how many times I've had assignments come to me which I had no clue on how to handle. Absolutely no clue. And I'd call somebody in our network and they'd say, well, have you thought of this? Or I know somebody that you can look to over here. Do it. Use the people that are around you. It's really, really important. And if you think I'm crazy, what did you find this weekend? People are willing to help. People like to help other people. I don't know how many times I've called John Harris. He's tired and sick of me. I'm surprised I have him on speed dial. Okay. And I'll tell you, some of us have done really goofy assignments, really crazy ones. I just heard about an organ, didn't I? Well, I'm going to digress a minute. I had a situation where I was looking at, or a banker asked me to appraise some large equipment that printed on corrugated boxes, large printing equipment. And it was very expensive equipment. I want to say $4 or $5 million per item. And I had done flexographic printing before, but this came across, and I didn't even see that it was really the same type of equipment. But I knew Bud Sandberg, who's one of the guys in our network here. He was in the printing industry. So I called up Bud, and I said, hey, Bud, what's going on? I don't know this stuff. Can you help me on this? He says, no, you can do it, Mark. He says, it's just like this equipment you've done over here. Well, I wouldn't even have thought of going back to that guy and saying I can do it unless somebody kind of gave me a little shovel along that could do it. And you guys, the new guys, you got to do that. We're all going to run into assignments that we think are going to be outside our bailiwick. Let's find somebody to help you with it. Okay? Get some advice. Overpromise, underdeliver. Meet your client's special requirements. Look out for your clients. Business owners, they don't know what they're looking for when they're asking for an appraisal. So lesson number 4, we're going to spend about 2 minutes on, then we're going to either take a 5-minute break or we're going to just blow on right through the 10 ways to make money. Lesson number 4 is know your customers and know who you want to be your customers. Again, big picture, these are kind of things that we got to do to get back to the basics, and things that we need to do as we build our businesses for the future. For me, there are 3 types of customers. 3 types of customers. And for you, there are probably 3 types of customers too. There's new customers that come from your marketing efforts. Okay? There are customers that you've worked with maybe 1 or 2 times, or maybe it's a referral coming into you. That's a warm lead. And then there's that 3rd type of customer, and I call that my A team. And those are guys that have been with you for a long time, that always come up and always come back to you. And that's where we all want to get to. We got A, B, and C. I'm get back to you, okay? So we got the A, B, and C type customers. So marketing for each different class is different in my mind. The marketing for new customers coming in, we use a whole lot of different things. We use the internet, and we use referrals, and we use direct mail, and all those things that we already talked about, and you already know from all your other marketing activities. But what you find from those new customers, there's many competitors going after those customers, and they're price shopping, and it's a bid mentality, and that's not where I want to be. Okay, I don't like to compete on price. Then there's those customers that you've worked with for a while. You're in the door. You need to tell them more about what you're doing. You start your customer retention activities. You kind of need to move them up a step. To when I say move them up, you're nurturing them to let them know that you're an advisor on anything that has to do with machinery, equipment, or fixed assets, or accounting for those types of fixed assets. You kind of move them up the scale. And then the third category. The second category, those activities that we do in marketing are a lot of touches. A lot of how many times can we talk to them? How can we support them? The A team are those people that have kind of come up. Those people, those customers, those clients, our friends, who have kind of risen to the top. They're going to be calling you for advice. That's what you're looking for. You want them to call you. They're your best marketers. They're going to be telling their friends about you. They're your long-term players. Those are the people that you want to stay in place. And, they're relatively price insensitive. They're not going to put you out to bid against somebody else. They know that they know you, they know what your report is, they know the consistency of how you treat them, they know what to expect from you. That's the place to be. That's where you want them. And when you get them there, you can charge whatever you want. Okay? Well, within reason. Okay? So I ask you, when you get home and you start thinking about your existing marketing activities, or as you build your business, think about the different types of customers and how you might move them from one class to the next class to the next class. Again, what works for me might not work for everybody else. Now, in my business, I said I'm a business broker, but I do a lot of appraisal work, and I love the machinery and equipment appraisal because it kind of keeps the doors open. And I've been doing this for a while. I work 5 clients make up 70% of my equipment appraisal business. That's great. That's what I want. I don't have to market. I don't have to spend a lot of time marketing, because those people are going to provide me enough work to be where they want. And that's a very, very positive number for me. So all I would ask is that you think about how you spend your time marketing and what the ultimate objective of your marketing is. It's not just to get the first job or the second job or an appraisal job. It's about taking customers, potential clients, and pushing them to your A team. Okay? A lot of you already know this. So I'm going to digress just a minute before we take a 2-minute break. Lesson number 1 was, it's your choice. Lesson number 2, we're going to get back to basics. Basics are made up of 2 things. They're made up of attitudes and activities. Attitudes, we talked about competence, trust, greed, fear, perception, reality, overpromise, overdeliver, and know what your customers want. Let's take 5 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll hit the 10 ways of which new equipment appraisers can make money. Okay? 5 minutes.
Good.
Those things are important to me. Might not be important to you, but figure it out for yourself on what's important for you. Okay, lesson number 5. 10 ways new appraisers can make money. A lot of these things you already know, but I'm going to repeat them anyway, okay? Number 1. I had to write these down because I couldn't remember them all. Number 1. Charge more. Okay? charge more. Duh. Okay, it's just as easy to say 3,500 as it is to say 2,500. Charge more. Yeah, you came all the way to Dallas to have somebody say that, charge more. Well, when you're new, you kind of say, oh no, if I charge more, I'm going to lose the job. Well, no. Yeah, here's my perspective, is that and again, we're all our own businesses, so everybody's different. Or a lot of us are one-man shops. I really don't like to compete on price, but a lot of people think that they should or they must. Okay, new doctors, Doogie Howser, new doctors, they charge the same as doctors that have been around for a while, right? What messages do we send in our pricing? Do we always want to be the cheapest guy on the block? What am I getting for cheap? I don't know. This is a hard one to deal with. Are we leaving money on the table? Okay. What's in it for us for the long term if we price our product down, price our service down? I said I had five clients that make up most of my equipment appraisal business. I had more than that, but some of those I started out pricing my, where I should have charged them $2,500, I charged them $1,500, and guess what? I never got them off at that $1,500 mark. Once you set the tone, it's really hard to raise prices. So, I'm saying, think about when you're setting prices. Every situation is different. Every job is different. Every client has a different perspective of value. Try not to let the client dictate what the value is. They're negotiating with you. Charge more. Okay. Here's something I learned. I learned this a long time ago, and I wrote it down because this was really important to me. There was a survey done by I think it was Price Waterhouse did it. But what they did was they went out and they surveyed a whole lot of business consultants and CPAs and attorneys, and what they were doing is trying to understand what the value of how they marketed their services and how they set prices and how they got new clients. And they came up with a really, really interesting conclusion. I'm going to read this. It says, here's what they concluded. They said, the professional, that's us, the professional who was given the job was the one who did the best job of explaining the services he provides. Well, that's huge. The decision wasn't made on price. It was the decision to hire was made on the professional who could best describe the services that they were going to provide. Well, how can we use that to our advantage? Well, sometimes people think an appraisal is just, they have one idea what an appraisal is. It's an appraisal. They really don't know what goes into an appraisal. Muddy it up a little bit. Through your conversation, talk to them about what you do and why it's of value to them. I use my engagement agreement to help me sell appraisals. In my engagement agreement, I go through a very detailed step of what I'm going to be doing for them. It's stuff we know, okay? It's the stuff we do. But I go through a very detailed process. I'm going to go out and I'm going to verify your collateral, and I'm going to take photographs of it, and I'm going to look at the serial numbers, and I'm going to look at condition, and I'm going to look under the hood, and I'm going to bring it back to the office, and we're going to do all this research, and then after we do all this research, then I'm going to write a formal report for you, and then I'm going to send it to this guy who's going to look at it and give it a review, and then I'm going to, well, what else do I do? Oh, then I'm going to send it to you electronically. It's going to make it easy because you don't want to have a whole lot of paper around your office. Well, that's different in concept than just an appraisal. That's stuff we do anyway. But I put that right in my, I talk to them about that process when I have them on the phone, and then when I send them the engagement agreement, they ask for a bid. I say I don't do bids, but I do agreements. Okay, I don't like to hear the word bid, but I'll send you my engagement agreement, and I go through part of the engagement agreements, our standard engagement agreement, but I add, here are all the steps, here are all the value items that you're going to get. So again, the concept of that was trying to explain the services, knowing that the professional who does the best job of explaining what his services are going to be is the one that's going to get the job and might not compete on price. Okay? So charge more. You can. Number 2, this is really simple, but you know, we all forget about it. Get into their system. Okay. What do I mean by getting into their system? I mean getting on their approved appraisers list. How do you get on their approved appraisers list? Everybody's different, but you call up the bank. Do you use equipment appraisers? Or may I speak to an SBA loan officer? Or may I speak to another underwriting department? I'd like to become an approved appraiser for your company. How do I get on that list? And you know, you might start with the receptionist, and the receptionist might pass you to somebody else, and might pass you to somebody else, but just be persistent. But get on their list. If they don't have an appraisal for you right now, but get on their list. Now, this is one of those things that are in my back to basics. This is an activity that you have to do. You have to get on their list, because if they don't know about you, they're not going to call you. Okay, so sorry I sound like a little bit on the soapbox on that one, but anyway, get in their system. Number 3, and there's always controversy when I bring this one up, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. Don't do desktop appraisals, okay? Don't do desktop appraisals. I do desktop appraisals, not a lot of them, but don't do them, okay? And here's why, and here's the position that I take on this, is that you make more money selling site visits. Yeah, okay. We just heard about collateral verification. I get it, it's a good service. You make more money doing site visits. You miss opportunities to meet people if you're not out there. Okay? If you're not talking to people, you're not doing your job. The whole appraisal business for me, to start with, was a way for me to get more deals on my business brokerage side. So for me to do a desktop appraisal is okay, but I'd rather get out and meet a business owner, because he might be selling his business someday, and if he's not selling his business someday, he might know somebody wants to sell their business today. Guess what I talk to him about? You miss opportunities when you're doing desktop appraisals. You miss opportunities to sell more services. For me, anyway, if I'm in a situation I can look around, I can see the business, and I can walk through a plant, I can figure out something else to sell them. Okay, or some other service that I might be able to provide. I don't know what it is before I meet them, but if I don't go out and look, I'm not going to be able to tell. You miss opportunities for referrals. People will, in my opinion, people will refer people that they know. That's an easier referral for them to make than to say, oh, I met this guy who did a desktop appraisal. I haven't really met him personally, but you know, if you've gone out and shook his hand, did an appraisal for him, it's a higher likelihood that you get a referral from him. So that's good. And doing a site visit, it's an easy sell in my book. It's kind of the greed fear thing, you know. The greed fear thing is like, okay, Mrs. Banker, you got an SBA guarantee. It doesn't even have to be a banker, but you know, you got 2 appraisals. You got a desktop and you got a site visit. Well, if you were to challenge those appraisals, what's the first thing they're going to say on a desktop appraisal? Well, he didn't even see the equipment. Of course, when I was out doing a site visit, I saw the equipment. So it's kind of an easy sell. You know, I sat in the seminar prior to this about the visual desktop reviews, and that's really a good service. I think that's great, and I appreciate that. But I kind of walked away from that and saying, yeah, it's a good service. Maybe I can make it cost effective, but for me, it's all about the people. That's what I want to do. I want to go meet somebody else, and if that's an opportunity for me to meet somebody else and make a little money, that's a good deal. So, as controversial as that might seem, don't do desktop appraisals. Okay, here's one. Repeat business. Now, let me say to some of the people that haven't done a lot of appraisals yet, you probably are saying, I can't do repeat business yet. I'm looking for my first few jobs. I get that. But this item needs to get onto your back to basics list because we forget about it, okay? We forget about doing re-ups or repeats. And when we forget about it, it costs us money. And here's an example I want to throw out where I did okay, but I could have probably made more. Back in 2008, I did a appraisal for a mechanical contracting company that was an ESOP, and it was a lot of equipment. The first appraisal was $20,000, and it was worth every penny of it because I spent a lot of time on it, and that includes site visit, appraisal report and all that. Next year, I did a desktop for $2,500, and all I did was I took they told me what they added, they told me what they sold, and I just kind of updated the report. I missed the following year. I did an update in 2010 for $2,500. 2011, 2012, I missed. 2012, actually, they added a location, so I charged them $12,500 for that. But I had to call them. They didn't remember to call me to come up and appraise that, but I had to call them, so I must not have had any money going that year, or nothing going on. No activity in 2013, 2014, or 2015. 2016, I did a desktop update, which I probably shouldn't have because they had so much stuff going back and forth, but I did. In 2018, they called me and said, we haven't had an update for a long time. So I said, okay, well, I'll update the whole thing from scratch. Instead of 20, I'll do it for 10. Well, that was a $50,000 appraisal over 10 years. Nice thing. But I probably could have made more if I would have kept going with it and kept reminding myself to go do it. My point is don't always rely on the client to call you for an update. Sometimes you have to call them for an update. And on that point, there's another company I deal with. And it's a construction company, and it's a construction equipment rental company. And I've done that assignment 3 times. But and I know that they get updated every year. The first time, it's all by the same loan officer, but the loan officers change banks 3 times, and so the borrower changed banks 3 times. So if I wasn't with that loan officer, okay, I'd be history. I would have missed a couple of appraisals there. So put that in your book. You need to know that. SBA lenders should get updated every once in a while. A lot of them sell off their loans. That's okay. But some of the smaller banks keep their loans, and this is something that you got to get into your book. It's always remember to do updates. Expand your business, sell more. Number 5. Okay, so this is the thing where you have to be perspective. This is kind of the loose one. Attitudinal wise, when somebody calls you for an appraisal, or to do something, you just have to assume that you're going to get the project. Don't assume that you're going to bid. Just assume that you're going to get the project. Kind of go out of your way. I always say, sell something you must do anyway. Okay, a great example of this is I have a buyer that's buying a business. He wants to understand how much equipment is worth, because the banker's going to need to know how much it's worth so he can lend on. So, I say, I'll do you a fair market value appraisal. But then to the buyer, I'll say, you're buying a business, and you're going to have to start replacing that equipment in the future. Why don't I do a replacement cost new value definition as well? And it won't cost you much. It cost you $1,500, but you might as well do it now while we have all the file open. And it's something you have to do anyway when you're doing the appraisal, right? So you just got to kind of keep your eyes open for that type of deal. Sell another value definition. Okay, I want orderly liquidation value. Those are always the hardest, liquidation values. But I say, okay, Mr. Banker, I'm more than happy to give you your orderly liquidation value appraisal, but the idea is getting the loan done, isn't it? You want to get this loan done. So OLV is liquidation value. I suggest we do 2. I suggest we do fair market value or fair market value and continued use along with your OLV. That's $1,500, And the reason that you need it, Mr. Banker, is because, one's going to be higher than the other. And if we're going to be giving this off to a bank underwriter, we want to have them thinking on the positive side of OLV, don't we? Not on the negative side. Oh yeah, that makes sense, Mark. So sell another value definition. Okay, sell the site visit. We talked about that. I kind of work it up. I give all my deals are fixed fee deals, fixed fee. Everything's packed in. Travel, appraisal research fees, incidentals. I tell them right up front, it's fixed fees. I'm not going to nickel and dime you with everything. What you get, you get. If it costs me more than what I bid, it's on me. It's not on you. There's going to be no surprises for your client. Go out and collect a check for $5,000 from your client because that's what it's going to be. You may count them. I'm not going to go back to them for 6. It's 5. People like that. They like to kind of lock in. I think that's good. That's the way I do it anyway. Learn the purpose of the appraisal and let them talk about the appraisal a little bit before you. Everybody can do it their own way. I like to learn about why they're doing it. I like to get them talking about all they know about it, and try to figure out if there's other services while they're talking that I might be able to provide them. One example recently was a private equity group purchased a restaurant chain, and they wanted an appraisal for the purpose of purchase price allocation. Now, purchase price allocation is where they take the price of the business and they allocate a portion to the fixed assets and they allocate a portion to goodwill. Well, they need to figure out how much to add to the fixed assets. So the PE guy, he sent me a depreciation schedule, and he says, our budget's about $5,000 on this, and it was for 13 restaurants. And I said, well, let me look at them. I looked at it and said, these are all lumped together. I don't know how I'm going to pull this out. So I went back to him. I said, I think it's better if we do a walkthrough inspection on this. And the reason I think that is because we need to identify each asset in each restaurant. And once we have that, then I can give it to your CFO, and he can put it in the fixed asset system, and you'll be able to you'll be able to depreciate those over the future, over different lives. And it'll also be very beneficial to you because you'll know about when you should expect to have to put money back into this to start replacing these deals. Yeah, that made sense. So that appraisal, where the budget was 5, came out to $22,000. So it's kind of you got to listen. And remember, these I'm throwing out these numbers just because these are real things. These things happen if you're patient. Another thing I do, I want to call this pro forma projections. Okay. These are hypothetical values, and I learned this from a banker. Now I'm selling it to other bankers. One of the bankers I have, commercial banker, one of the 5, probably the best of the 5. When I do an appraisal, he asks me to do hypothetical values of where the equipment will be in the future. And if they're going to do a 7-year loan, they want to make sure that the collateral values don't fall below what the estimated orderly liquidation values will be in the future. I'm okay with that. I can do that. Of course, you disclaim everything away and say, you don't have a crystal ball, but I do that. And, it's an Excel spreadsheet. I've already got all the data together. I usually just straight line it. Okay, here's where I am today. Here's where I'm going to be in 7 years. Okay, and I sell that as part of the package. It's more than just an appraisal. It takes me, I did one last week for this fellow. It was 20 pieces of equipment, and put it on a spreadsheet. Took me 2 hours probably, with coffee breaks and answering the phone and all that other stuff, and it was an extra $800. So I was okay with that. But now I'm selling it to other banks, and the way I sell it is, how long a loan you doing? Do you need any future projections? You probably didn't know I could even do that. Oh yeah, well, so it again, you have to learn the bank approval process, how they're going to go to committee and so forth. But as an appraiser, you do need to give them an independent opinion of value. But it's my opinion is that you also have to help them get their deal done. And any support that you can do from a professional perspective that can help them get their deal done, they're going to be happy for. Special asset situation. Special assets are assets that the bank has made loans on that have gone bad. Okay, those are great situations for us as appraisers. I lived on special assets between 2009 and 2011. Typically, a bank will have to get an appraisal done before they can sell the equipment. That's a good place for us to be. Number 6, asset tagging, fixed asset records. Asset tagging is you go out and you put tags on assets, the numbers, and then you take those numbers and you help them put them into their fixed asset system. Accountants or controllers like that kind of stuff. I don't know why. It's kind of boring, but it's a way. We're expanding our services, okay? And that asset tag has on there Mark Richardson, so I know they know where to go the next time they need to sell that.
Do you all use that terminology?
Asset tag. That's the one that I use, and that's the one I tell them about. But so.
Asset identification.
Asset identification, asset management. So. Equipment brokerage, that's another place. We all know about equipment brokerage, and obviously we've all talked about that. Some of us do it right now. Here's my perspective on equipment brokerage. It's something you need to do, whether you're a broker or not, okay? Get the designation, and here's why you need to get it, is that you're going to appear as an appraiser to know more about appraisal if you appear to be able to sell things. I'm an equipment broker, so you must know how to appraise this stuff. That's a little bit different concept than, oh, he's an accountant. I wonder what he knows about construction equipment. It's a good designation, and I use it. Again, it's not about what we think about ourselves. It's about what our clients think about us. I think somebody's probably already talked about equipment brokerage and the equipment brokerage designation on this. An offshoot of that is equipment sourcing. You might have clients that you've worked with in the past that are looking for pieces of equipment. Let them come to you. Okay, go out and source a piece of equipment for them. Yeah. Can you get paid for it? Yeah. Collateral verification, we talked about that. And as much as you can get. You can do it on an hourly basis. You could do a percentage basis. You can buy the equipment and resell it. I don't like to do that. I don't like to put my own money into it. It depends on the client for me. It depends on what my relationship with them. If it's if I've made a fee from him in the past, say I brokered a deal and made a big fee, I won't charge him anything. If, in fact, I'm new in the relationship, it's more on an hourly basis. And when I say hourly, I'm my own shop, okay? So when I say hourly, I'm everything. I got different hats. There's a professional service provider. That's the top guy. He's going out between $350 and $400 an hour. And then there's a clerical guy who's probably 70. Okay, and then there's the guy who sweeps the floor, and that's about 25. So it depends on who I'm talking to is what my rate is, right? So I didn't quite answer your question, but if it's research, it's going to be more than that $75 an hour. But if it's giving good hard advice, then you kind of go up the scale from there. So collateral verification, we talked about that. Always use that collateral verification when you're doing an SBA loan. It's important in my mind. I advertise that I do collateral verification, even though I don't do a lot of it. I do it when I do an appraiser. I'm an appraiser. But the idea is that we're new starting our businesses, and we're trying to develop a game plan and moving forward. The more different ways that people can come to us under the more different keywords or however it is, the better we're going to be. Whether it's coming through equipment brokerage, whether coming collateral verification, whether it's coming through business valuation, whether it's coming through business brokerage, or whether it's coming through equipment appraisal. The whole idea is we want to get it funneled into us.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, sir. Please, Tom.
That collateral verification is a strong tool if the economy starts to soften, because those banks, and so if you start to see a little
That's going to go away faster. That's going to accelerate, probably, yeah.
So there's a great revenue opportunity if things soften up for you to go out and protect your income stream.
And not only to verify it, but say what it's worth or where it's going.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do an appraisal too, in addition. But
Good point.
I did a lot of that when that last downturn, the big downturn, we did a lot of that because equipment was just disappearing.
Thank you. Expert witness work is another, I'm sorry, I'm getting tracked off. Collateral verification, thanks, we did that. Again, in my mind, collateral verification is, I'll do it only if I can meet the business owner and I can create another introduction. Consulting related fees. I'm gonna run through this real quickly. Property tax reduction. In states that have property taxes, personal property taxes, California, it's very expensive. It's 1 to 1.5% of the equipment value. Business owners want to get their tax rates down, so they need to know, have appraisals done for it. Those are tough ones. You can get the assessment guidelines online, but it's a consulting fee that you can go back and sell that business owner after you've done an appraisal for them. You know, I walked the plant, I did an appraisal for the bank, you got your loan, I'm back here. Mr. Business Owner, when I was going through here, I noticed you had a lot of things in your plant that aren't on your fixed asset list. Why don't we get those cleaned off, and let's look at some of these things. Let me just take a look at your personal property tax statements. Let's kind of see how this stuff's in line. You know, put together a 1 or 2 day consulting assignment for them. It's available there for you. Capital asset management, that's another area where you can do hypothetical appraisals. Hypothetical appraisals, what something might be worth in the future. Now, the target market for this are the larger companies typically, the companies that have larger capital budgets, the companies that are going to be buying equipment that's going to be good for 5 or 7 or 10 years. And it's probably not going to be your small business owner, it's probably going to be that equipment manager or that purchasing manager in a larger size company. Well, that's a good source, because everybody that we run into in business has some touch on equipment, and everybody we meet, we got to tell them that we're equipment appraisers or we're equipment experts. Now that is a desktop appraisal, okay, because who knows what it's going to be in the future, but we qualify that away. I did one last year for a company that was investing in capital equipment for strip mining operations, and they wanted to know what the equipment would be worth in 5 years. So again, you qualify it away. That's one of those types of appraisals I didn't think I could do, but I called John. He said I could do that. So he said just qualify everything away. Expert witness work. Some like it, some don't. It's something that you can do as appraisers, and you get paid for it. You're on your own on that one. I don't like to do it because I don't like people challenging me. I'm nervous. I'm really nervous standing up here today. Think how I would be sitting on a stand. I'd be shaking like a leaf. I just can't do expert witness work. But you can make good money on it. A lot of people do. Some of my friends say, you know, you're crazy, Mark, for not doing it. And I just don't like doing it. Please. That's good money, though, huh?
You have to develop a cavalier attitude. I don't care. You just develop an attitude.
You gotta get your butt chewed at least twice and then do that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of.
I got thin skin.
I don't care who wins this court case.
I find myself crying too.
Seems like it'd be interesting, but I've never been invited to, so it must not be an
So I'm going to go on. I got to get you guys out of here. There's plain sketch. Referral fees. Okay, referral fees are referral fees. Okay, how do you talk about those? Well, this is a hard one to talk about. Banks pay referral fees for loans. That's the easy part. Generally, a banker will pay about 1% on a SBA loan, and generally, I say generally. I know U.S. Bank Corp does it. Community Bank, where I live, they do it. I don't know if Wells does it. But anyway, it's usually about 1% of the loan. So on $1 million loan, that's a $10,000 deal just for referring a client to them, and that's good. That's good money, and that doesn't come out of the banker's pocket. It's from the bank. It's not the business development officer or the loan officer. So they don't mind paying it. They come out and tell you right away, I'm going to pay you your 1%. So that's good. My thing though is that if a banker's been giving me a lot of appraisal work and I come across somebody that needs a loan, I'm going to refer that to my client. I'm probably not going to charge him a fee. I wouldn't charge him a fee. Okay, but I already have a relationship there because he's giving me money through work, giving me work and giving me money. And so I would feel uncomfortable doing that back. You might feel differently. When I don't have anything in it, so somebody calls me and says, "Hey, Mark, can you help me get a loan?" I say, "Yeah, I got an SBA guy that can do that for you." I'll go to my guy. I usually just take it to one. I don't shop it. I usually take it to one. Somebody I have a good, strong relationship with, and I'll say, "Hey, Grady, I've got a guy who wants to do a SBA 504. Can you help him out?" I know he can help him out. And then I'll say, "Hey, you know, I don't have anything in this. Can you help me a little bit with it?" And he says, "Great, super." Now, I don't have to pay him back because he's done a lot of financing, but he knows that if I don't have anything in it, he doesn't mind paying a fee. My attitude is if I have a deal, I bring him a loan, and that deal helps me get my business sale done, I'm not going to ask for a fee on that. So you just got to kind of look at that. The whole thing about referral fees is relationships. Okay, if you want to ask a guy for a referral, build a relationship with him first, because it's going to be a heck of a lot easier for you to get a referral fee from him in the future. Okay, it's another way to make money. So it's a bunch of different ways. You know, it's all kind of being fast on your feet when you need to be. So where am I now? So I've got 5 more minutes, and I'm going to talk and see where we are. And we were talking about number 1 was choice. We have choice to make as much as we want. Number 2, get back to basics. Number 3 was the givens, knowing the right attitudes to have. Number 4, know our customers. Number 5, let's look at all these different ways we can make money. We're more than just business appraisers. So let's tie this all together and kind of go back to that, back to basics, those attitudes and those activities. We talked about attitudes earlier, and now we're talking about, then we just talked about different activities, and we talked about attitudes. So let's tie it all together. Well, earlier I talked about choice. Choosing to do those things that might or might not make us money. Every one of us in the room can figure out the right things to do. We know the right things to do. Many of us know the right things to do, but we forget it. We forget about doing them. You know, it's worse when we work for ourselves. There's nobody watching over us or telling us what to do. So, you know, my business is me. And whether you're working for yourself or for anybody else, your business is you. So you need to stay on track. You need to focus. You need to avoid distractions. You got to, as you build your business, you figure out what works for you and what doesn't. You know, and I struggled with this for years, figuring out what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And I guess if you were just starting out in business on a new endeavor, I'd say kind of get a grip on what makes sense for you. It's important. Take stock in what you're doing. We're all different, and you know, we all have different attitudes and competencies and, you know, opportunities in front of us. You know, and when you find you do something right, get it into your back to basics book. Okay, it really makes a lot of sense. Now, here's my back to basics book. I'm going to read this to you, and it's not a lot of reading. It's just, this is my always get back to basics books. Now, I wrote these in October of 2000, and this was before I became a certified machinery and equipment appraiser, but many of the things still apply, and I read it quite a bit. Okay, and let me read what it says here about what I wrote and what I was doing back then. I'm a business broker. I was then, and I still am. Focus. Put people together. Create introductions. That's me. I have to put people together. Take on good saleable listings. Make time each day to work on productive activities. Watch out for time wasters. This was interesting. Things happen when we do. This is a note I wrote always. Things happen when we do, when we're in momentum, when things are going good. Not when we're thinking about what we're going to do. You know, don't wait for the right time. Keep momentum. Don't wait for the right time. Keep your eye on the ball. Focus. Clear your mind. Get rid of all that noise. Look at your thoughts from the outside. Separate yourself. This is me. This is very personal. Okay. Things I must do to be successful. This is great. I don't believe I wrote some of this stuff. Stay organized. Make contacts. Ask for what you want. I was afraid to ask for money. Ask for what you want. Control the situation. Send your mailings. Do your marketing. Do a daily and weekly plan and set goals. I'm pretty good at that. Not so good sometimes. Stay focused. Get saleable listings. Motivated seller. Make sure the price and terms are right. You can't sell a $3 million business for $6 million. Only do saleable listings. Only sell saleable businesses. Don't do it without a third-party valuation. Keep your database up to date. Okay, so you can see there's attitudes and there's activities in there. Some great thing. I got my mileage cards in here. Oh, this is it. I believe I wrote some of this. Step outside your boundaries. Get involved. So that's my Back to Basics book. If I can give you one piece of advice, get yourself a journal, make yourself a Back to Basics book, write down what works for you, and knock them dead. I really wish you well. And if I could ever offer anybody advice, I'd ask them to pick up the phone and give me a call. And thank you very much for your patience and listening with me today.